Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 2 of January's Advisor Ambassador Program. My name is Zach Hewells, and I work in the Marketing Communications Department at the NAFA Home Office. Today, we have a week 2 class, which is the Build Your Professional Network class. And we have Stephen Good on today, who is one of our national trustees. And Stephen is going to just talk a little bit about supplementing your natural market through effective networking. And if you have any questions for Stephen during the presentation, feel free to use the chat feature below in the Zoom window. And if you have any questions for him at the end, you want to unmute yourself and just ask him directly, we're going to have an open forum for that as well. But I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Stephen and let him present to you guys today. So Stephen, without further ado.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. So welcome, everybody. Hopefully you are off to a good, strong start here in 2020. I've been at this now for almost 20 years, and I'll tell you what, more and more the saying rings true: as January goes, so goes your year. So hopefully you guys are up and running and doing what you need to do, and this is a little bit more of review or additional ideas for you, not something foundational for you. So let me just give you a little bit of a quick background on me, just so you all have a little bit of an idea who it is that is going to be speaking to you. So like I said, I've been in the industry now going on about 20 years, and a pretty wide variety of roles that I've sat in, from being a producer, worked in home office for a little while, sales manager, running agencies, all those different types of things. So there are a few, if any, seats that I haven't had the opportunity to sit in. But I'll tell you what I think makes me unique is I'm the person that probably never should have been hired in this business to begin with. I'm a double major in marine science and biology with a minor in chemistry. Don't forget about my chemistry minor. That's come into play a lot in my life. And I moved to Washington, D.C., where I'd never been a day in my life, to start this business. So what I want to go through with you guys is what I did to help me become successful as a producer. I was conference qualifier my first year in the business, and building on it as I went through. So this isn't out of a book. This isn't some kind of grand plan that was told to me. This was literally the bootstrap stuff that I did in order to be successful. And I know some of these ideas will be implementable for you and make you guys successful as well. So as we dive in here, let me just kind of set the stage a little bit for what we're going to do. To me, a lot of being a good networker is about understanding the basics, understanding how to get involved, where to go, understanding all those types of things. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on that. Then we'll talk about what do you do when you're there, right? So when you're in front of people, when you have conversations with people, how do you position, how do you do the things that you need to do to get them wanting to move forward in conversation with you? Talk a little bit about the elevator speech, and talk about the next meeting. What do you do? How do you do it? So when you get them to that cup of coffee, what do you say? How do you build that out? And we'll wrap up talking about this concept and say a little well as the important top these days. So one of the first things that I really want to do is lay out a couple of goals. And the first thing for me is I want to give you all a couple of different ideas of new places that you can go, a couple new techniques that you can use when you're out there in front of those new places, give you at least some framework for an elevator speech, as well as an idea on how to shoot first. And that statement will make a little more sense as we get further in. And then also a little bit of a concrete action plan of how you're going to follow up and move on from here. So, the first thing to me when we talk about this is you got to nail the basics. And my big thing there, that first one, is give to get. If any organization that you're going to go to, the expectation is, I'm here, give me business, you're dead. Period. You're dead in the water. It just does not work that way. So what I would encourage you guys to do is come in with the understanding of, what can I give? What can I bring to the table? What are the things that I can do to help you, whomever that person is you're sitting across from, to put you in a better place? Because the more you can do that, the more you can create those raving fans that, you got to go have a conversation with Steve because he's so good. He gave me this and this, and he introduced me to this person. The more you can do that, the better off you're going to be. One of the ways I've always found to be effective in doing that is have a plan when you go in. Don't be the card dispenser, right? Everybody's always been to that Chamber of Commerce event where the person's walking around and go, hi, I'm Stephen Good. Hi, I'm Stephen Good. Hi, I'm Stephen Good. Just passing out business cards. And we know one of two things happen to those business cards at the end of the night. They're either thrown in the trash or they get stuck in the jacket pocket, and then they go to the dry cleaners. And then when you pick them up from the dry cleaners, you get the bag full of cards and you're looking, I don't know who this person is, and you throw it in the trash, right? So it's ended up in the trash when you're that card dispenser. So my rule of thumb was always, if I'm at a networking event for an hour, I want to talk to 5 people for a solid 10 minutes each, okay? So that 5 for 10 is a key to me. I really want to make sure I get to know them. I get to understand what's important to them. What are some things that they're grateful for? What are some things that I can start to latch on to, that I can start to develop that rapport and develop that trust with them. So that's a key to me, is that 10-minute mark. You always want to try and get to that mark. I feel like when you hit there, you've had an in-depth conversation, you've gotten past the crazy weather we're having today kind of thing, and it's a much more in-depth conversation than you might have, say, if it's only a 2-3 minute conversation. And one of the last ones on there, fashionable entry. This is such a huge pet peeve for me. Listen, if it's a networking event and it starts at 5:30, I'm there at 5:25, right? This isn't some cocktail party that I got to have a fashionable entry into. This is me working, right? It's not net eating, it's not net drinking, it's net working. So I want to get there to work. I want to be there as early as I can to be able to have conversations, to be able to get to know who the important people are. Trust me, many of my most successful networking events have stemmed from getting there 5-10 minutes early. The host or the vendors are still setting up, and I can say, hey, do you need any help? And as I'm helping them, who are some of the key people here? Oh, you know what, you got to go meet Joanne. She's the president of the organization, or she was the founder, and this and that. No, that's what I want to know. And if you're there and you're helping those people, they're going to be a lot more inclined to want to help you as you go through, right? So I think those are some of your big keys. Is don't show up just thinking you're going to show up and get something because you're there. Have those more in-depth conversations. Don't be that card dispenser. Don't just walking around giving out business cards thinking you're going to get somewhere, and make sure you get there on time, right? The big thing to do too is be strategic when you go. Try and look around and see who else is going to be there. So if you have an opportunity, if there is an event on Meetup, or there's an event from LinkedIn, or maybe a BNI chapter or a LaTip or something like that, look and see who some of the people are that are going to be attending. And maybe reach out to them in advance, or be specific and say, hey, I really want to meet Katie, the CPA that's in the chapter, right? That's a great way to do it, where you're not just showing up and hoping, but you're showing up being strategic about who it is that you want to speak to, why it is that you want to speak to them, and then you have a plan in place. One last thing that this always catches me every time, right? Guys, it's the easiest thing in the world. We've got our pocket right here, right? How many times you just take the name tag, stick it right there? You don't ever put your name tag on the left-hand side, okay? Name tag always goes on the right-hand side. So when you shake hands, you're actually putting your name out in front of them. Stupid thing, but trust me, more and more people remember my name because I'm always reaching out. I'm always saying hello. I'm always shaking hands and always putting my name in front of them. So dumb one, I know. A lot of you are probably already know this, but it always tends to win over people when they actually remember who you are and can see your name. So in terms of get involved right away, to me, this is a key to success. There's a great opportunity in networking to position yourself to be the guest host or the greeter, right, at a chamber of commerce or those kind of things. I tell a story. I had an advisor, this was years ago, who he made a transition into the business and had a little bit of trouble as a job changer because everybody knew him from his past life. So he went to this chamber and he said, you know what I'd like to do? What I'd really like to do is be the new member greeter. And they all kind of looked at him and they said, what do you mean? He said, well, what do you do now when a person joins the chamber? I said, well, we mail them the welcome packet and all those kind of things. And this guy looked and said, yeah, why don't you just call me and I'll go deliver them, right? And I kind of sat back and I was like, how did I never think of this, right? It was brilliant, because now anytime anybody joined this chamber, this guy showed up and had the packet and said, hey, welcome to the chamber. I'd love to tell you about my experiences. I just joined myself. Here's what I do. Tell me about you. he on an average week would get 2, 3, 4 appointments, right? Where he'd drop in to people in the local area. Oftentimes it was stores that he would go to and facilities that he was familiar with, but now he could walk in and say hi to somebody and do those kind of things. I always reflect on that because I thought it was brilliant. So look for those kind of opportunities. Look for those opportunities to be the greeter or the host, those types of things. A couple of networking groups I've been involved in through the years that, the meet weekly and the like. Maybe somebody can't commit to meeting every single solitary week, but they could be a great prospect for you. Well, if you're the guest host and you reach out to them and say, hey, listen, it was great to see you. I'd love to find a time to grab a cup of coffee. They're going to expect that. They're going to be comfortable with that. You were that face, that smiling face that greeted them as they walked in the door. Chances are they're going to take that cup of coffee with you and want to get to know you better. So take advantage of that as much as you can. This third bullet point, I can't emphasize this one enough. Join the cause only if you care. Having done this as long as I have, the number of advisors that I see that'll go join insert organization or nonprofit or whatever and expect that, gee, because it's the Make-A-Wish Foundation, right? There's lots of people with lots of money and it'll be great networking for me. You will get chewed up and spit out instantaneously, and worse, and in my mind, significantly worse, you're never going to be able to overcome that reputationally, right? The only thing we have is our word. That's it. So when you come out one way and say, this is me, this is what I do, and this is what is important, and it's not something you care about, it's going to come back to bite you. It will every single solitary time. So I always emphasize that. Join the cause only if you care. I can't say enough about that. But also be aware, guys, when you're out there, look for public speaking activities. The Rotaries are a great example. Oftentimes you'll find Rotaries that are out there that are looking for speakers, and other organizations like Lions Clubs and Elks Clubs that are always looking for speakers. So is there an opportunity for you to join those types of organizations as well as speak in front of those types of organizations? Again, I know an advisor very well that his world, he is in Toastmasters. And anytime he has the opportunity, no matter what the speech topic is or no matter what it is, he finds some way to relate it back to what we do. And he's been wildly successful as he's moved up through the ranks in Toastmasters regionally. Everybody knows him as the financial guy, because anytime he speaks in the humor contest, he did financial, everything he did financial. So great opportunities that are out there if you just kind of keep your ears to the ground to some of these organizations to find ways to get out and to go and speak. And I say that obviously tongue in cheek, probably one of my favorite saying from Seinfeld's, right? The number one fear that everyone has is public speaking. Number two is death. So everybody'd rather be in the casket rather than delivering the eulogy. Great line. Unfortunately, it's true. Hopefully that's not you. Hopefully all of you are excited, willing, and wanting to get out there and take advantage of those speaking opportunities. But certainly I understand that not everybody has that same belief or mindset that I'm blessed to have. So where do you go, right? And this is probably the biggest thing that I get challenged with is, okay, that's great, but where do I go? Well, we know the chamber associations, we know those types of things, but what else is there? First one I'm going to shift you to is your alumni association, okay? Whether that could be high school, whether that could be college, whether that could be grad school, whatever it is, look and see what's available to you. And don't feel like, oh, you know what, I went to insert little small school here, there's not going to be an alumni association. So I will tell you all, I went to the University of Miami, right? So not a huge school, a smaller private school. And when I was out in Arizona, there was not a huge population. There were only about 600 or 700 alums in the state of Arizona. But I had a lot of success because through the University of Miami Alumni Association, I got connected with the ACC Alumni Association. I had a friend that was out there that got connected. They went to one of the small schools up north through the Patriot League. And there was a Patriot League Alumni Association. So even though they may not be people that went to your school, they may be people that went to a sister school or another local school, and there's some shared commonality or some shared relationships that you'll get out of that. Obviously, your BNIs, the tips, and the referral groups, always look for past employment opportunities. So go back to many other organizations or other groups. I used to laugh when I was up in DC. Our office was on the first floor. On the second floor of our building was the National Association of Associations. So trust me, if there's an association for associations, there's an association for whatever it was that you did in your past life. So is there an opportunity for you to go back to the medical assistant or the, whatever it might be, to go sponsor those kind of groups and see what's there? I challenge you, there probably is. And two, think about your hobby groups, right? The things that you like to do. I had another advisor years ago that he had a Toyota Land Cruiser. And his joke was, there's a big Land Cruisers Club of Northern Virginia because we can't go more than a week without somebody's car breaking down and we all have to get together and fix it. Well, for him, he had this great opportunity because half the time they were fixing his car, but he had this great opportunity because he was able to go through and he had all these other like-minded individuals, and just the natural flow of conversation through the months became, hey, what do you do, Andrew? And let's have this conversation. And he was able to generate some pretty decent relationships out of something he would have done already, which was literally just a hobby that he had. I had the same success with Ultimate Frisbee and with other organizations that I've done through the years, where just through relationships and through friendships, I was able to develop those business opportunities. So think about that. I challenge you, there's lots of opportunities that are out there that you may not think of, or you may not think is an opportunity for you to be able to position yourself and for you to be able to get introductions. But I promise you that they're out there. So what do you do, right? So we're at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, we walk in, now what? Well, the first thing that I always say is this. Start with them, shoot first, okay? Anybody that has worked with me through the years know that's always my biggest thing in networking is you always got to shoot first. So you got to figure out how are you as quick as you can at the draw of, hey, my name is Stephen Good, I work for X, what do you do, right? Have that be part of your entree as best as you can. And the reason I always say it is this, you're going to tailor your conversation about what you do relative to who's in front of you, right? If I'm in front of a business owner and my story is, I work with employees to maximize their employee benefits, business owner probably doesn't want to talk to me, right? I'm an expense to that business owner. Same thing if I'm in front of the head of marketing and I say, you know what, I help business owners maximize the revenue that they take out of the business for their family, what's that person thinking? Oh, it's another guy that's just trying to screw me out of more salary or a bonus or getting paid what I deserve, right? So I want to understand who's in front of me. So I want to ask that question and learn some leading questions that you can ask. So if somebody says that, I work for XYZ company. Oh, really? How long have you worked there? If somebody's only been there for 2-3 weeks, they're obviously going to have a very different conversation than somebody who's been there for, say, 10 years. So ask those kind of questions. Get to know them. Get to know their role. Get to know what's important to them. Great question that you can ask in networking is ask somebody what's one or two things they're grateful for. I can't tell you enough. I know, thankfully, gratitude is becoming more and more of a commonplace conversation, but that's an awesome way in networking to ask somebody more than the what do you do and how long have you worked there? What are 2 things or what are 3 things that you're really grateful for? Okay. So from there, another question that I've always asked is what success have you had here? So if you talk to somebody, right, and you're in the throes of conversation and they work for XYZ Inc. and they've been doing this, and just ask them, hey, how long have you been coming to this group for? Because the best networking opportunity, in fact, literally the best networking group I ever found, it came from going to a meeting that I found on Meetup and went to it, and this was probably 7-8 years ago, went to it, and I'm walking around and it was one of those, oh my God, how much longer am I going to be here? I've already talked to the 3 people that seemed like, they knew how to button their shirt with the buttons lined up. There's nothing else here for me. But I started talking to one person and I said, hey, is there any success for you here? And this guy looks at me and goes, God, no. This is not what I thought it was going to be. But you know what you should do? There's this meeting that's the first Tuesday of every month that's at this place. It was awesome. And all that came from is, hey, we had a lot of success here. Through the years, that's been great to me asking that question because that's how I've been able to meet some of the movers and shakers and some of the people that are the ones that you want to connect with at those different organizations. So that to me is a great opportunity to lead into what you do, right? So talking to them about that and going from there. And then in my mind, that's really there's two ways to move on, right? Certainly the first way is if this is somebody that you really want to engage, body language is a very big thing to me. So just imagining as you're looking into the camera, right? If you and I are engaged, and I want to make sure that we're engaged, if I am square to you and having a conversation, everybody knows, right? You see two people talking like this, most people aren't going to come in and do like, hey, can I work my way in, right? Most people are going to avoid that. So I tend to square up with that person if that's an individual that I really want to have a conversation with, and I want it to be a one-on-one where now I can start to share what it is that I do. If it's the other way, right? If it's somebody that just started, isn't happy with their job, there's some negativity there, or maybe there's some opportunities there that I just don't feel like I'm going to be a good fit. One of the first things that I tend to do when I start to introduce myself is, again, body language rise white. I will try and open myself up. So rather than being squared off with that person, I literally just open my shoulders so it's very inviting for somebody else to come in. Because you can imagine if you have two people talking like this, it's going to be very comfortable for you to come in and say, hey, let's sit down, let's have a conversation, and kind of turn to them face to face, so to speak. So that is one thing I will tell you I've always found is that body language of really squaring up face to face with them if I want to just engage them and get into what I do in conversation. And if it's somebody I'm looking to kind of move on from, right? If you do that, if you turn and open yourself up, very often that will invite somebody else into the conversation. And then that way you're not the proverbial alcoholic or a very hungry person that every 5 minutes, I'm just going to go get something to drink, or I'm going to go get something to eat, or whatever it might be. So I feel like that body language has always served me well through the years, and I'm sure will serve you guys well too. So let's talk about elevator speech. So let's talk about what happens if you lose, okay? So at the end of the day, you're at this event, somebody asks you, what do you do? Well, now what? So what I want to do is talk a little bit about this, right? I think everybody knows what an elevator speech is. It's that 30-second conversation about what you do, how you do, that type of thing. The objective, I think, gets lost a lot of times. You're not selling them anything in that elevator speech, right? Think about Ned Ryerson in Groundhog Day. Ned's biggest problem is, you look like you need some life insurance. No, right? That's not the objective in that elevator speech. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to get that person to engage and ask questions and want to move forward and learn more, okay? So in my mind, there's two approaches, and I want to give you both because I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think, honestly, it's a personality choice as to which one makes the most sense to you, okay? So again, you get that question, what do you do? How do you respond? So the first one I'm going to break down is the more technical one, okay? So in this version, there's two things that are important. One is address a pain or a need, okay? So you see in this example, right? People call when they see consequences of their failing when the sole breadwinner dies prematurely. I love good old industry jargon, right? Because that just flows off the tongue, right? So you got to provide a pain point or a solution, right? The need, excuse me. And then ultimately a solution. So what do you do, right? People call me because they're concerned about what happens if they were to lose their spouse prematurely or if their spouse were to pass away. What I'm able to do is make sure that that family can move on financially. So you provide that pain point or that need and then a solution. And that really tends to be a good, solid elevator speech. Now with that one, that becomes one that obviously you can adapt a little bit and you can work with it a little bit. I will tell you, for me, that's just never been my language. That's never been something I've been comfortable with. I have no problems. I stole this from somebody literally about 18, 19 years ago when I first heard it. So if you want to steal it from me, more power to you, unless any of you happen to be in South Florida, in which case I'll find you if you steal this. But I've always said forever and a day, when somebody asks me first and I lose, I'm a money coach. And you can imagine, right? Because all of you went, ah. But what do you think everybody says when you say you're a money coach? Without fail, the question I get is, what? Because nobody ever says that, okay? So what is a money coach? Well, listen, Tiger Woods was a pretty good golfer in his day, right? Probably say he was one of the best golfers ever. But he had a swing coach. His swing coach wasn't a better golfer than Tiger Woods, but he was somebody that could see the things that Tiger was doing that Tiger couldn't see for himself and make just a small correction to make all the difference. I do the same thing for people's money. And you'd be amazed when you say that. You watch somebody just go, oh, that's cool. Tell me more. So again, I'm a money coach. Tiger Woods, good golfer, had a swing coach, wasn't a better golfer, but could see things that Tiger couldn't see for himself. I do the same thing for people's money. I have another good friend in the business that her whole thing is I'm a financial GPS. So much like your GPS, you give me an idea on where you are, you give me an idea on where you want to go, and I'm going to ride along with you along the way, telling you the things that you got to do, the ways that you got to turn, or the decisions you got to make to end up where you want to end up, right? Great analogies that to me, they just sit a little better with me than, well, gee, in the event somebody dies, I'm there for you. That just never really sunk in as my personality type. But I think either one of the two of those that you choose to go with, whether it's the financial GPS or money coach or anything like that, or if you want to do that need or pain point and solution, I think either one of those, if you practice them and get comfortable with them, I think you're going to position yourself in a really good place. So the big thing is next meeting, right? What do you do next? For me, when it comes to the next meeting is, I always set my next meeting as off-peak time. So I wanted to grab a cup of coffee with somebody at 7 o'clock in the morning or at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because I don't know about you where you live. Not that many people want to meet at 4 o'clock because many clients, I should say, want to meet at 4 o'clock because oftentimes that's in between finishing up work, whatever it is, or same thing, 7 o'clock in the morning, people don't often want to meet. But I found that was a great time to meet with some of the strategic people that I met at a Chamber of Commerce or other networking groups. I just found that always was good for me, and it didn't take away from my profitable business, and it just gave me the opportunity to expand my network. Certainly when you get together with them, talk through the group, have those LinkedIn referrals ready. I can't emphasize this enough. Anytime you're going to meet with someone, go through their LinkedIn profile. Stalking is legal if it's on the internet. Did I say that right? I'm not sure. Right? You can go through LinkedIn. You can get people and see other business owners or attorneys or doctors or whatever it is that you're looking for. Come to the table and be able to say that to them, right? Hey, listen, I work with a lot of young attorneys, and I happen to notice that you know Joe Smith. Would you mind introducing me to Joe? Do you know any other young attorneys like Joe? Prime that pump and come with LinkedIn recommendations, people that you know you want to meet, and have a call to action for them, right? So don't make the mistake of, I met you at this networking event and it was a great conversation and we met again and it was great and we'll see what happens. Ask them, do you have a financial advisor? Do you have an insurance person? And if the answer is yes, great. Do you have confidence in them that I can give you a second opinion? And if the answer is no, then I really need to give you a second opinion, don't I? Right? So have that call to action. Make sure it's part of every time that you meet with that person. Ask. Just ask. Ask if they want to be your client. If the answer is yes, great. And if the answer is no, you're that much closer to the client that's going to say yes for you. So strategic team, this is something I want to spend a minute or two on just because this was a huge part for me as I build out my business. I focused in really heavily on the business-to-business marketplace. So I went out and aggressively tried to find other people that were trying to get in front of small business owners. That's it. Didn't matter who you were, what you were. I wanted to find a business coach and a commercial realtor and a CPA and a business attorney and all these resources that could bring to bear. Business coach has always been my best referral source. And you might be sitting there saying, why? Well, a business coach teaches a business owner, work on their business, not in your business. Train up somebody that can be a key employee, wink, wink, on a daily basis to run your practice for you. The greatest thing in the world when I was a producer and I lived in DC was to have my phone ring and I'd answer and it would be, hey, I work with Ingar and he told me I had to give you a phone call to talk about what to do with this employee of mine. I knew once or twice a month I had key person life insurance, I had key person disability, and a lot of times we'd be talking about deferred compensation and everything else. Literally, just because of this relationship I built up with this business coach. Because anytime I met a small business owner, you need a coach, you got to go have a conversation with Ingar Grev. He's a stud. Here's everything that needs to happen, right? So develop those relationships, build that out, and don't fall into the trap. If you talk to some of the more experienced advisors, some of them will tell you like, oh, you build your business out wide, have a dozen CPAs that you can refer to. I'm going to tell you more and more these days, it's not how wide are your relationships, it's how deep are your relationships. So if you find a CPA or you find a business attorney, or you find a residential realtor that you have a great relationship with, work with that person. Don't worry about just getting in and working only with one. Develop that relationship. Now listen, obviously if they sell 2 homes a year and they're a residential realtor, go find another one, right? But develop that relationship. Don't focus so much on casting this wide net. Cast a very deep pool with 1 or 2 key relationships, and you'll end up catching a lot more and getting a lot more. We used to hold, for an example for everyone, in my office in Washington, D.C., at 6 a.m. every other Friday, our whole strategic alliance would get together and would talk about the businesses that we were in and the businesses that were coming up over the next 2 weeks. It was awesome. You'd literally walk into a meeting at 6 o'clock in the morning. At 7:15, we walk out of the meeting and you'd have 20, 30, 40 different people that you were supposed to call that were expecting your phone call because your strategic alliances had already talked to them about what was going on. Can't say enough about that. It's a great opportunity. You could even finish up this call today, and if you wanted to do work in the business marketplace, just go Google business coaches near me. Just pick up the phone call and say, hey, I want to take you out to coffee and I want to talk about what do you do. Somebody needs my services, who do you refer them to? And look and see what you can do. Can't emphasize that enough. It's been the #1 way that I've built my business through the years is through the strategic team concept. Social media marketing. I can't go through a networking conversation and not talk about it, but I also can't go through a conversation and talk about social media, because depending upon your company, you could look at LinkedIn and YouTube and go, I'm not even allowed to use those programs. You may look at them and go, God, that's what we've been using for the last 10 years. I'm now on whatever, TikTok or whatever, So everybody's different. Here's what I'll tell you about social media marketing. If you're going to use it, meaning have a consistent plan that you follow through and execute on. If once in a blue moon you post a funny cat picture, that's not an effective use of the tool. And most of your resources aren't going to be paying attention to anything that you say if that's what you're doing. Schedule time. The people I know in our industry that do social media the best, they literally either have someone on their staff or they themselves go through on a Sunday night at 9 o'clock at night, spend an hour and get their social media set for the week. Okay. So it is absolutely a cost-effective way to get out in front of folks. But I just got to tell you, make sure you follow the rules of your broker-dealer, follow the rules of your insurance company, follow the rules of your carriers in terms of what you say and how you say, just to make sure that you don't do anything that could put you at any kind of risk. But again, if you have a set plan that you go and run with, it's awesome. And there are lots of people that are out there these days. I know more than a few advisors that have 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that are in college that run their social media for them because, to them it's putting on their shoes in the morning to be able to log in and do this with social media. Great opportunities to leverage maybe your kids or some friends to come in and do that kind of stuff for you. So great tools, great resources. Just make sure that you're staying within the realm of what is compliance approved within your organization. So let's land this. So what do you want to do? Okay. So the first thing I would tell you is this, is figure out, take some time when we hang up, right? Take 15, 20 minutes before your 3 o'clock. Take 15, 20 minutes, go find another networking event. Okay, go find a new group, whether it's log on to Meetup, go to your local chamber, BNI, LATIP, NRG, you name it, they're out there, right? Go find a networking event or two that you can go to. Sign up, put it in your calendar. Set a goal for yourself of, hey, you know what, I'm going to make 2 to 4 contacts, or I'm going to do, I'm going to be there for an hour. I want to walk away with 5 names, right? And hopefully I'll get 2 meetings out of that. Set a goal to yourself that you can hold yourself to, right? Work on that elevator speech. Work on, again, that first one, right? Hey, I'm Stephen Good with 1847 South Florida. What do you do? Work on that where it's a natural conversation, where you teach yourself and you force yourself to have them speak first. Have them tell you what they do first so you can tailor your approach back. And obviously work on that, whatever the elevator speech is that you want to do back. If you happen to lose that game, work on that elevator speech that you want to do back. If you're in for it, guys and gals, commit to a public speaking event. I'll tell you what, it's a great opportunity to get out in front of people on a quality basis. But again, I understand chances are, out of the large number of you guys that are on here, I know for the last time I did this, I had a couple people that emailed me and said, hey, yeah, listen, I'm the one that'd rather be in the casket, so don't worry about me. I'm not doing that public speaking thing. So I get that. But if you're good with it, try and get one of those on the books, right? Get something lined up maybe for the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter that you can go and run with. Build those strategic alliances. Again, if you want to be in the business marketplace, take 10 minutes as soon as we hang up, go to Google. Google business coaches near me. Look for coaches that are action coaches, that are growth coaches, strategic coach, all those kind of franchise type coaches. That there's great opportunities with those individuals to get in front of them. And just shoot them a note. I'm looking to work with more business owners. I'd love to figure out how we can work together. Okay. Great opportunity. Simple, easy thing that you can go and do, and targeting something different than the CPA or the attorney that they've already gotten 10 phone calls over the last 20 minutes that we've been on the line together to do an alliance. A lot of the business coaches and the like, nobody ever picks up the phone and calls them. Commercial realtors, another one. Nobody ever picks up the phone and calls them to do that. And then obviously within the confines of your organization, expand that social media presence, expand what the opportunity is to do some of that passive marketing and that passive networking. So hopefully this was helpful to all of you guys. My contact information is below there. If you want to shoot an email and have any individual or one-on-one conversations, I'm always more than willing to go through and do that. Last thing I want to leave you guys with is just a little bit of a quick plug for NAFA before I open it up for questions. So I told you guys a little bit of my background, right? I'm a moron. I have no business having any success in this industry. The reason I have success in this industry is because of NAFA. This organization, the relationships, the knowledge, the camaraderie that I got out of this organization is why I am who I am today. The biggest thing NAFA has done for me, and I promise will do for you, is it's always going to steer you right in your career, because you're always going to find mentors. You're always going to find people that are willing to put their arm around you and say, hey, hold on, here's what I would do for this case, or here's a big decision for your career. Here's what you got to think about, and here's why it matters. So the beauty of this organization is it's been around for 130 years, and it's stuck up for our clients, and it's stuck up for the industry better than anybody else ever has or anybody else ever will. So you're doing the right thing by you. You're doing the right thing by your clients. But ultimately, and in my mind, I think most powerfully, that you're going to, on a constant basis, be armed with knowledge, tools, and resources that will make you a cut above anybody else out there. So I'm happy to have any follow-up questions, whether it's regard to networking, whether it's regard to the strategic alliance concept, whether it's in regards to just NAFA in general. So open it up for any questions that you guys have or any concerns that you guys have. Obviously, I really appreciate the time to chat with you all today, and look forward to seeing you guys up in Boston here in a few months for our main meeting. If not, seeing you guys in Washington, D.C. when we go take on Capitol Hill and continue to push the advocacy of what NAFA does. So thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Rich, really appreciate your time today. And I just wanted to pass along Sal a little message to say great presentation. So that's great feedback, Sal. We appreciate it. Um, if anybody has any questions for Stephen now, you can feel free to unmute yourselves. Otherwise, like he said, he does have his contact info up there. And if you want to reach out to me at recruitment@nafa.org, you can also contact me for any questions and I'll pass them along. And as always, a recording of this is going to go out this week, as well as the sign up for next week. So be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.